She never thought a single evening would change her life forever. She was just a simple girl with dreams in her eyes and worries in her heart. Someone who lived day to day and counted every dollar carefully. When her friend convinced her to go on a blind date, she hesitated because she didn't even have enough money to enjoy dinner at a nice restaurant. In her worn-out purse, she only carried $3, the last bit of cash she had until her next paycheck, and she almost canceled the plan. But her friend encouraged her to give it a chance, saying maybe she would meet someone kind who wouldn't judge her circumstances. With a nervous heart, she dressed as best as she could. Wearing a simple dress she had worn many times before, but which she ironed carefully, hoping she would look presentable enough. When she reached the restaurant, she immediately felt out of place. The lobby was filled with well-dressed people, chandeliers sparkled above her, and the smell of luxury filled the air. She looked around nervously, holding onto her tiny purse, and whispered to herself that she should leave before embarrassing herself. But before she could turn back, a tall man walked toward her with a warm smile. His presence was calm yet commanding, his eyes kind but carrying a depth she couldn't quite describe. He introduced himself with a gentle handshake, and she noticed how confident he was compared to her own nervous, shaking hands. She didn't know that this man was not just any date, but a billionaire single dad who had built his empire from the ground up. A man who carried both success and scars from life. As they walked to the table, she kept her eyes low, afraid that he would notice her nervousness. He pulled out the chair for her, a gesture so gentlemanly that it made her cheeks turn red. The waiter handed them menus filled with dishes she had never even heard of, and she panicked inside, knowing she could not afford even the cheapest item. When the waiter asked for drinks, she quickly said she would just have water, trying not to look foolish. He raised an eyebrow, noticing her hesitation, and softly ordered for both of them, choosing dishes he thought she might enjoy. She wanted to stop him, to explain that she couldn't pay for herself, but the words stuck in her throat. Throughout dinner, he asked her about her life, her dreams, her family, and her struggles. At first, she answered cautiously, afraid of being judged, but his eyes showed no judgment, only genuine interest. Slowly, she opened up, telling him about how she worked 2 jobs just to cover rent, how she often skipped meals to save money, how she once dreamed of studying further but had to give up to take care of her younger siblings. She admitted she had almost canceled the date because she didn't even have enough money to be there. When she said this, her voice cracked with embarrassment, and she looked down. Ashamed of her truth, to her surprise, he did not laugh or frown. Instead, he smiled warmly and said that honesty was the most beautiful quality a person could have. He admitted that he had more money than he could ever spend, but often met people who only cared about his wealth, never about his heart. He told her about his own journey, how he had been a poor boy once, selling newspapers to survive, how he lost his wife young and had been raising his little daughter alone. Despite his riches, he felt empty, longing for someone genuine, someone who could see beyond the surface. Her honesty touched him deeply because she was not trying to impress him. She was simply herself. As the evening went on, she forgot her fears. They laughed together, shared personal stories, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen. The billionaire noticed the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her siblings, the way she smiled even while describing her struggles, and the strength behind her gentleness. He felt something stir inside him that had been silent for years. When dinner ended, she reached nervously for her purse, knowing she had only $3 and that it wasn't enough even for a tip. Her hands shook as she tried to speak, but before she could say anything, he gently placed his hand over hers and told her not to worry. He had already taken care of everything. She wanted to protest, but his calm gaze reassured her. He then asked if she would like to take a walk. Unsure but curious, she agreed. They walked outside under the city lights, and he told her more about his life as a father, about the loneliness he carried despite his wealth. She listened with care, her heart softening as she realized that beneath the expensive suit and powerful aura was a man who longed for simple love. He noticed her shivering in the evening air and quietly placed his jacket over her shoulders. She looked at him, speechless, feeling warmth, not just from the jacket, but from the kindness in his gesture. When they reached the corner of the street, he paused and asked if she believed in fate. She smiled shyly and said she wasn't sure, but maybe fate had brought her here tonight. He chuckled softly and told her that sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most beautiful changes in life. Before saying goodbye, he asked if he could see her again. And though she hesitated out of insecurity, his sincerity convinced her to nod yes. She walked home that night in disbelief, clutching his jacket around her, wondering how a man like him could be interested in a girl with only $3 in her purse. The next few days, she couldn't stop thinking about him. She expected him to forget her, but instead, he called, checked on her, and invited her again. Each time they met, he treated her with respect, never making her feel small about her struggles. Slowly, she met his daughter, a sweet little girl who instantly adored her. The girl wrapped her small arms around her and said she wanted her to stay forever. That moment brought tears to her eyes, and the billionaire watched silently, realizing how naturally she fit into their world. Weeks turned into months, and their bond grew stronger. She never pretended to be someone she wasn't, and he never flaunted his wealth to impress her. Together, they built trust, laughter, and hope. She often wondered if it was real, if life could truly be this kind to her after so much hardship. But his actions proved his love again and again. From small gestures like remembering her favorite snack to big surprises that left her speechless. One evening, he drove her to a quiet place outside the city, a beautiful garden lit with fairy lights. As she walked among the glowing flowers, confused but enchanted, he took her hand and knelt down. With emotion in his voice, he told her that the night they met changed his life. That her honesty and kindness healed wounds he thought would never fade. He asked her to be not just his partner, but also a mother figure to his daughter, promising to stand by her side through every struggle and every joy. Tears streamed down her face as she remembered the girl who once carried only $3 and no hope for love. She nodded through her tears, unable to speak, and he slipped a ring onto her trembling finger. The little girl ran into her arms, and in that moment she realized that love had found her in the most unexpected way. Life had turned from despair to a fairy tale, all because she dared to show up even when she felt unworthy. The poor girl who once counted every coin now counted blessings she never imagined, not because of riches, but because of the pure bond of love. Her story became a reminder that no matter how little you have, honesty, kindness, and courage can open doors beyond imagination. She went from carrying $3 in her purse to carrying a lifetime of love in her heart, proving that true wealth is not measured by money, but by the people who stand beside you.